Okay, why don't we begin? Hello everyone, good evening. I'm Alvin Takeshita, Highways Administrator for the Department of Transportation Highways Division. We're here tonight to make a presentation to you on our federally constrained statewide transportation improvement program, which is a listing of all the federal aid projects slated throughout the state. And I'll give you a little bit more detail on that. First of all, for you folks, let me introduce some of my staff here. This is Patrick Tom, he's from my planning office, and he's also the STIP coordinator. We have Sal Panam from my Hawaii district office. He's in charge of the island of Hawaii, so if you have any concerns, please see Sal. He's the guy to see on this island. And he's my go-to guy for this island as well. Tonight, this is a little agenda that we have this evening for you. And, what we're doing is rehashing some of the things that we have gone through before on our previous meetings. And we're sort of like in the home stretch of our STIP process. What we need to do is get the STIP approved federally by the Federal Highways Administration, and then it can take effect on October 1st, 2014, which is just a couple of months down the line. So, we're looking at getting this done probably by mid to late August, and then we'll be all set to begin the federal fiscal year beginning October 1st. This is to share with you again the financially constrained federal fiscal year 2015 to 2018, plus 2 illustrious years. So it's a 4-year plan with 2 additional years in case, and I'll go into the in case a little later. We're also going to discuss the process that we have taken to develop it within the guidelines and rules of the federal government. It is a requirement that we go through this process to be able to have it approved by the Federal Highway Administration. The STIP, let me tell you a little bit about the STIP. Again, it is a statewide plan for all the islands. And of course, we're holding all of our meetings on all the islands. And it is the list of all the projects that we anticipate going through for the next 4 years. Again, with 2 additional years beyond that. And the reason for that is that, conditions change. Nothing remains the same. I think you see some of our highway projects, there's unknowns everywhere. So, in the event that any one project comes across hurdles that we cannot overcome, then, we need to have it replaced, because if you do not use the money, it goes back to Washington, D.C. So we must be assured that our federal funds are utilized here within the state to make the best use of the monies that's allocated to us. The projects need to be eligible. Okay, what I mean by eligible is that it must meet at least 4 criteria. It must be consistent with the long-range plan. A while back, you folks had meetings, community meetings, determining the long-range plan for this area, what your vision was, what you foresaw as what you expect the transportation system to provide for you. The STIP is the implementation arm of that long-range plan. And the long-range plan, hey, we talked about it, we discussed it. Now the STIP, it's time to do something about it. We're going to put that in motion and generate projects according to our STIP schedule to actually get the shovel in the ground and get the improvements out to you. The projects must be established through some kind of management system. And what I mean by management system is that we have all this data on our bridge inspections. So we determine which bridges around the state are in the worst condition, which one is in the best condition. So we prioritize our, all of our projects based on that information. We also have pavement management that'll figure out the rideability of all the roads, state roads around the state. And based on this, we determine what roads need attention the most, and that's how we determine that. It must be on the federal aid roadway system. And what I mean by federal aid roadway system is state highway system in general is a federal aid system, as well as some of the major county roads. It must be functionally classified. It cannot be used for your subdivision roads or some of those smaller lower classification roads, because those are not on the federal aid highway system. And the most important thing, it must be ready to go in the year that it was planned. Because if it's not ready to go, now you're in jeopardy of losing the project money. So, that is something that we don't want to encounter. So the projects must be ready to go. Again, there's a lot of unknowns, so there may be changes to the STIP, but basically you're going to try to hold whatever priorities we determine. Anyway, my buddy back there. Representative, thank you very much for coming. I appreciate it. Back in May, we had 9 public meetings throughout the state. And this was to give you a draft STIP. How many of you were here when I was here back in May? Yeah, so you guys know what we're going to do. There was a lot of discussion of some of the projects and the priorities of the projects. And we do take your comments seriously. So this constraint STIP that we're presenting to you tonight is considering all of those comments. Yeah, go ahead. Now, the financial constraint process, to assist us in constraining the STIP, whatever project must fall out and stuff, project readiness, we always check with the sponsor. And whether the sponsor be the state DOT or whether it be the county, we check with them to make sure that their project schedule is up to speed, because we can't have it falling behind. Again, we put a very huge importance on this because we don't want to lose any money back to the states. Agency priorities. Agency priorities are what they mean to be a priority to them. Is it congestion? Is it capacity? Is it safety? Is it maintenance and operations of their system? Whether it be just upgrading it, paving it, those are all agency priorities. Then we talk about funding distribution targets. I think I told you last time that for the Big Island, we allocated you folks 18% of the federal funds available throughout the state. Now, our budget normally is about $163 million of federal funds. Now, this $163 million includes both federal highways and FTA funds, for those bus systems and stuff. So it's a total of both funds. $163 million. Again, the draft STIP that I gave you back in May, that was for about $200 million a year. So, we had to chop off about $40 million or defer some of them to later years in order to be within the budget. We try to stay within the budget because, I'm not going to go over here and promise somebody anything if we don't have money for it. That's not going to build any credibility for us all. So, it's something that we're here to show you what constraints we have placed on the STIP to be within the budget. Again, available anticipated funding, 163, 18% of which should be Big Island. We also take into consideration program balance ratio. So what I mean by program balance ratio, hey, it's a bean counter state. It's not an engineer. By the way, I'm an engineer. What they look at is, you got to use 65%, right? No, 35% for capacity. Yeah, 35% of your federal funds got to be used for capacity. and stuff, congestion relief and stuff. 65% is for your other stuff like safety, bridge replacements, all those other areas of transportation needs. It's a bigger number, 65%, because there's so much more need. As we develop our roadway system, there's more to maintain, there's more to upgrade. So, you'll always have that number. Again, we have 9 public meetings throughout the state. Back in May, I was here, I guess May 27th to the 30th somewhere. Now, the constraint funding, this is kind of complicated. Trying to be as clear as I can on how we do this. The money that was allocated for the Big Island and to any other island is based on the vehicle miles traveled for this island. For Big Island, because you have a bigger island, there's more traveling to do, so your number is going to be much higher than some of the other neighbor islands. You have 18%. Hawaii, for example, a smaller island, they have 7% because their cars don't have to travel as much. So you folks do a lot of traveling. There's what you call based on road usage, the use of the road. So that's how it's based. How much federal funding is available for the state? Again, 163 million is what we have available. Again, about 40 million had to be taken out of it from our draft that we presented back in May, because that was based on 200 something million, and we had to bring it down to the 163 million. Maybe you want to explain this?
Okay, sure. So actually, this is just another bit of information, financial constraint that we need to take care of. Funding distribution and system balance. Alvin talked about it a little bit earlier. This refers to the percentage of funds that are being allocated towards each county. As Alvin mentioned, 18% was targeted initially to go to the Big Island based on vehicle miles traveled. As you can imagine, Oahu, with the most population, would get a bigger share, and the target for Oahu came up to about 55%. After we went through the financial constraint process, I think we ended up hitting those targets, allocation targets, pretty well. We came out with for the island of Hawaii, target was 18%, and we came out with about 16% of the funds ended up on the Big Island. Some of the discrepancy actually went to Kauai, because Kauai had some bridge projects that were kind of critical, so we felt that we needed to address those critical bridge projects on Kauai. There's also an emergency slope repair project that our district, we felt that the District of Kauai could use that more immediately. All in all, after the financial constraint was sorted out, the island of Hawaii got about $100 million over 4 years. $100 million of federal aid over 4 years. Let's see. Which comes out to about $25 million a year. So that's kind of what this slide is on.
And I can perhaps add a positive note to that. The Department of Transportation Highways Division is currently applying for what we call Tiger grants. And this is separate from the $163 million the state gets in federal funds. These are over and above that. We haven't heard word back yet, but our application has gone in for additional monies to fund, finish up some of the portions of the Saddle Road. So that is a project specific, but we do plan to pull in more federal funds for that. So the Big Island is going to actually get more than, you know, when you talk about total federal funds, it's going to get more than, you know, the projected 16, 18%. So we are working towards that. And, you know, let me tell you as the administrator what my focus is going to be for the Big Island. You know, okay, you guys, I was born and raised in Wainaki, by the way. So you guys know that, I told you guys that last time. So I'm a Hilo High School grad. So I know this island like the back of my hand. You know, I gotta focus focus on bridges. I tell you why I gotta focus on bridges. Our bridges are so old. And if those bridges go down, you know, you have a loop. It's not like the mainland where you have a grid. It's a loop. So if you disconnect one area where the bridge goes down and it's not passable, you're going to have to go all the way around to get to the other side. So, you know, it would be a disaster, a nightmare. So, you know, I don't want that to happen. It's funny, this island has the biggest, highest bridges in the state. You know, I used to swim in Honolulu River all the time. And you know how high that thing is, but so you can imagine the challenge of replacing that particular type of bridge. But those bridges are really, really old. And you know, the island tropical weather, it does take its toll, whether it's concrete, steel, even wood. You know, so we do not want to venture anywhere near a category where, hey, our bridges are in danger. So we don't want to get there. We're going to focus on that. I noticed the Big Island also, especially Hamakua Coast. You know, along the roads, get these steep embankments. You know, I'm just waiting for one of that to come down. You know, hey, nobody can fool with Mother Nature. And as time goes by, under the weather conditions, one of them is going to fail. Especially those 3 horseshoe turns that you got along the Hamakua Coast between Hilo and Honoka'a. Yeah, those are our priorities. We are addressing that now. Sal already has some projects for one of those gulches to make sure that we stabilize those slopes, to make sure that the roads are passable and nobody gets hurt. We're also going to look at the growing areas of the Big Island. And I truly understand and identify that the Puna area is a growing area. So we're going to commit to continuing the capacity for our Pahoa Road with that widening. You know, we need to get it done. It's unfortunate, but you know, Hawaii is a small state. You know, 2 weeks ago I was discussing this with the Caltrans director, the California Department of Transportation director. One of his projects is $6 billion in federal funds. I told him that, you know what, my 20-year budget doesn't come out to that. You know, so they have a huge advantage. They have the ability to undertake huge projects at one time. You know, over here we need to phase them out because, you know, I can't spend all that money on one island. That's not going to be enough for us. So, you know, we need to make sure we distribute it correctly and do whatever we can to phase it, to make sure that it comes, there's something that's going to be done and completed for you folks. Again, it's not the best way to do it, phasing, but you got to do with what we have. You know, and that's just the way it is. I just wanted to give you folks an idea of what I look at when I'm looking at the transportation system for Big Island. So I'm well aware. I would like to take care of this other end over here at the Kalapana end, but you know something? One of my projects, Madam Pele ran over it. I was the project engineer for the Kaimu Chain of Creators Road back when I was a design engineer.
When was that?
Pardon?
When was that place?
That was in the 70s. In the 70s, I was the project engineer for that.
Early 70s.
Yeah, and you know, yeah, I just kind of cried when the thing, you know, went over it. You know, it's totally impassable. Right now, it's rather unstable, so you know, it's not I don't think it's a real good idea to plan anything right there, right now, because your plan may be no good if the, conditions change. So just to give you an idea that's what I'm looking at. I know you folks all have the handouts, all the steps in place. You folks know what my focuses are. And if there's any questions or discussions, I'd like to entertain them at this time. Sure. Good.
So I understand the funding timeline here through fiscal year 2018. For the KL Pahoa Road, how does the construction timeline measure up against that?
We don't have a cost yet. We have what we call a ballpark. So, we probably will take 2 more phases to reach Pahoa. So, that, again, we have to, it's not like my old days. My old days, we just get the project up. By the way, I designed part of the H1, H2, and H3, so I go way back. But, we can't just build a road anymore. There's so many, hurdles that we have to go through, permits. There's so many environmental things that we need to check off to make sure that, we're doing things right. So, it does become a very tedious process.
So the ballpark for timeline is?
I think you have your Pahoa further widening. It's already on your stip, so we are planning that right now. Yeah, it's not going to. I don't think it's going to be completed within this 4 years, but the next phase will probably be completed. Yes.
Well, everybody's been noticing all the tree clearing on Highway 11, and there's been a lot of people wondering if you're just going to remove the junk trees, or if there's a second phase in which there's going to be some additional planting over there.
Yeah, I'm assuming you're talking about
Tell us what the plan
Hilo
is.
side of the Shipment Park.
Between Hilo and Kea'au.
Oh yeah, Sal was. I told you, Sal was the king of this island. Yeah, he was telling me about their effort to clean the tree in the median.
Yeah, initially, the firehouses, initially we had complaints about site distance and trees overgrowing and stuff. So we had our maintenance guys go there and took care of that first. And at the same time, my superintendent says, hey, why don't we beautify this place, make it look nice? So, okay, go ahead and do it. So that's where we are.
So is there going to be more planting after you finish taking out all the weed species?
Hopefully there'll be grass there.
Is it going to go all the way to Kea'au?
We like to go all the way to the shipment part there. Yeah.
Okay, last time you were here, we were talking about the HS14, which is the current construction. And the last time you were here, basically, it sounded like all the merge just moved from wherever it is to right before shower. And we had suggestions at that time to relieve the traffic. Could you at least, instead of having it merge again, to at least have turn lanes, so we have the option of not having to merge again?
Yeah, we in fact I personally investigated that, so I know that. It's unfortunate, but under the current project, we're not able to undertake that. And I'm going to tell you the reason why. One, there's a utility pole right there. I think you see the utility pole. There's also there's this road running parallel to our highway, right above the road.
Yeah.
So if we do that, we're going to wipe out that connection to the road. It's going to widen up because you need a wider turn.
I mean, can't you just, because the idea, my understanding, last time you were here, we're just adding another shoulder, Malka side, and so can't that be used like as a merge before you folks do the construction of widening from Shower to Pahoa, which is HS15? Because right now it's kind of ridiculous, the plan, and from commuter standpoint, we're all merging, you just moved the merge. You didn't relieve the problem.
Well, I'm looking at it this way. Under this particular project, we cannot. You cannot, because the money's not going to be there. What you're looking at is probably a what? $1.5 million fix.
just to add in a turn lane?
Correct, because you also have a grade separation. This is the highway, this is where the road is. How are you gonna do that? Can't make it just go straight down, the road's gonna collapse. So, you know, I can't, there are certain considerations that we are, like I said, I have personally gone out there. In fact, if I'm not mistaken, my director went out there because, you know, he had heard about it. I think Senator Rudman had informed him about it, but no, you know, that's not to be undertaken under this. Under the next phase, the shower drive section, yes, we will take a look at it.
But that won't be until 2015, according to HS15 here.
Well, you know, let me tell you, 2015 doesn't start until October 1st.
Yeah, I know, that's
It's
what
right around the corner. It's not something that's going to be 5 years down the line. So, you know, you're looking at October 1st, 2014 beginning is the start of fiscal year 2015.
I have a question about the road height on the shoulder lane coming Puna bound.
Okay, go ahead.
There's about a 4-inch difference between the existing road bed and the shoulder lane.
I'm not sure if it's because of construction. Maybe Sal can answer that.
Will that be level?
You said the shoulder lane, there's about a 4-inch drop.
On the, so it's gonna be level with the existing road now.
So you
We're
are
fill
going
it, yeah,
to add another 4 inches of
Oh, yeah,
pavement.
no.
4 inch on the shoulder, and then we'll cap it another 1.5 inches the whole
Yeah,
round
no,
after
yeah,
that.
we cannot allow a drop off like that to exist. So it's probably a construction condition.
Okay.
Yes.
No, I'm standing. That chair's killing my back.
I'm gonna stand by this fan because the heat
Yeah,
is killing
sorry.
me too. But yeah, you know, you folks, I can see where, you know, our focus is gonna be in those areas that I mentioned, so. And who was it? There was somebody here. Oh, did she leave already, Leilani?
Yeah.
Oh, shoot. You know what, she was gonna ask me about all the hoopla and the controversy about the highway trust fund. You know, the federal guys. I was gonna give her an update on that. Yes.
When you're approaching the Pahoa bypass coming from the KL direction, just before you turn off to go either to Malama Market or to Pahoa itself, there's a yield sign. It's right at the last minute and it's rather small, and a lot of people don't notice it until it's too late, and we've had a lot of accidents at that intersection. I would ask you if you could possibly either put the sign up a little sooner to alert drivers, you know, give them a little more lead time to slow down, to know they have to yield, and or make that sign bigger so it's more noticeable. You know the yield sign I'm talking about?
Yeah, you entering into the circle there.
Yeah.
And then before you go into
It's
Malama
right at the
Market.
last minute, and people a lot of times don't notice it in time because it's not noticeable. If it was
There's
bigger
not
and if it
enough
was
room there, I think.
pushed further back sooner, maybe another 50 yards to give drivers a chance to see that there's a yield coming up and they should prepare for it. I think it would help to make that intersection a little bit safer, and I don't think it's an expensive fix. I think it's a real easy thing to do.
We'll take a look at that.
Let me just inform everyone that we're going to start that roundabout project there, so it's going to be starting pretty soon. So some of those things will be, you know, altered by our project. So just to give you that. Go ahead.
Back when, about a year ago, when we were having meetings over here, there was a young woman who was in charge or was a supervisor of this project, the KL Pahoa Road stuff. And at that time, I asked why we cannot have, as an automatic thing, right turn lanes built into every intersection. Because even though we're country, and all of our intersections are 2 lanes each way, right? we do get backlogged, and a right turn lane seems like it would be very inexpensive, a very simple kind of thing to do, that it should be like, there are places where maybe it doesn't warrant a right turn lane, but if you had the mandate that country intersections should have a right turn lane, unless it's not warranted, that would sure help a lot of our road problems.
Yeah, you know,
And the lady that
Let
was
me
here
tell you
then said
something
that
that
she was gonna do.
I personally evaluated the intersection. No, it's not a good idea to put in right turn lanes as a rule of thumb. I'm gonna tell you why. Right now, at Old Government Road, the Pahoa bypass, it's sort of like a T, right? Now, coming from Hilo, you have a right turn lane, right? You have a right turn lane, the cars in the right turn lane. When the cars are coming out of Pahoa, they're waiting to see if it's clear to make a left turn to go toward Hilo. The cars in the left turn lane, they hide the cars that are coming, that are going through.
We know that. I'm not asking about that intersection.
No, I understand that, but what you're saying is to use it as a rule of thumb. So no,
I'm talking about, that's a whole totally different situation. I'm talking about, say, right over by the high school, there is an intersection, there is a light. There is the highway 130, and it's numerous lanes there because it's got turn lanes. But the intersecting road is 2 lanes. And a right turn lane there on either side on the smaller road, not the highway, on the smaller road, would see, because so many people back up, the traffic gets backed up because people are trying to go across into Pahoa. But there are a lot of people that are, pardon?
County road. 132 is county road.
But the intersection was built by the state. The intersection was built by the state. Okay?
It's outside of a right of way.
So you wouldn't have the right of way for that. So
Just
there's
as much
no
as
cooperation
Just
with
as much as I don't allow the county to do work in our right of way, you know, it's the same that they won't allow us to work in their right of way, because whatever we do, they will be liable for. Whatever they do, I would be liable for. So,
Well, the first thing that happened when that intersection opened was that 2 people were killed immediately, you know.
well, that was before, wasn't that the fuel bus accident long time
Yes,
ago?
it was. It
Yeah.
was right after it
Yeah,
first
that's why
opened.
it's signalized, but it was not signalized at that time.
It,
I investigated that accident.
it was terrible.
I'm very well aware of it.
Right. But that's the intersection I'm talking about. So you all built the whole intersection though?
But,
You built that whole intersection.
well, within the curb, I'm getting technical here, but within the curb return. What I mean by the curb return is when the 2 curves, when it flattens out, that's what it's like.
So we have to go to the county to get right turn
If they
lanes.
want to get it
I
right.
see. Thank you. That's what I needed to know.
Yes, sir. Hey, so last, at the May meeting, we were discussing the HS14 and 15, and it was explained to us that the bicycle or the non-motorized traffic lane heading in the Pahoa direction was going to be taken off and removed, and that during the hours of 3 o'clock to 6 o'clock, it was going to require cyclists and pedestrians to go to the Mackay side of the road and use that to be able to enter Paradise Park or enter and heading towards Pahoa. And then so we went back to our constituents and we asked for comments, and I don't know if you've seen the new release or not on the comments that were entered for HS14 and HS15 about being able to give us that 24/7 bike lane or bike route or bike way of somehow that we can actually utilize that lane instead of having the shoulder lane and where we're being blocked off, or having us have to ride against traffic lights and having 2 routes, which is going to require, which again, remember statistically that's our #1 way we get hit by cars. Bicycles.
Yeah, you know, I know you're gonna have to, you're not gonna want to hear this, but let me tell you what we normally do. We follow the bike lane. You know, and there's no bike lanes. proposed for this section?
Actually, I
Yes.
have bike plan for right here,
Yes.
and it does show a bike lane for that area.
Old school.
I believe it'd be shared use.
Or shared use.
Yeah,
Um,
shared use is not a bike lane.
Well, okay, so basically the issue is that they want to stop traffic from, or I guess stop the
No,
bicycle
no,
traffic.
and
from-
let me tell you
So-
why we don't, okay?
Mhm.
It's like building a sidewalk to one block. Why would you do that? Don't you want to, do the whole stretch of pedestrian foot walk? Why would you do it only one block? So why would I put a bike lane that's this long, and that's it? It doesn't lead to nowhere, doesn't go to nowhere.
Actually, that's our only entrance to get
And that's why we
to
follow
that
the
direction.
bike lane.
Yeah, that's our only entrance to be able to get into that. And so the issue is this, is that at this point right now, if you are a cyclist, and generally, remember, most of those cyclists, they also own cars too. So they're not just cyclists, they're also driving those roads as well too. But at this point, if you want to safely ride, say if you want to commute to UHE, if you want to go, you're a college student, you want to ride, go kid, you want to go ride a bike there. You don't live in Wainaku's pretty close to get to Hilo. You live in Paradise Park, you got to ride from there.
Oh, I
Then
used
you
to
gotta
walk
cross.
to school.
Okay, and then, so, yeah, well, I ride my bike to school, or I have ridden my bike to school before too, so, and to UHE, by the way, from Puna. Anyway, that, be that as it is, having the riders go ahead and have to move to the Makai or Malka side of the road, ride against traffic, and then be able to try to move their way back over, again, very, very unsafe. And all, if, looking at the planning, especially in your folks' state about complete streets, where complete streets, that does require that we have an area that can be used either in a bike route, maybe not a bike lane. We would love to have a bike lane, but we need something that we can move our traffic from one end, coming in and going out. And it's not like you're making a short section in there. You are actually enabling those riders to be able to get to Shower Drive, and at that point where we have a fairly large shoulder, we actually have that opportunity to use. But right now, we're closing out. We don't have that opportunity to be able to get in. And if you don't have two-way traffic, which is what we don't have, you're not going to get that heavier use with that.
Yeah, I'm not sure really what to tell you other than, to be able to allow the bicyclists and the movement on both sides. Our Shower Drive project wouldn't be in construction today. It would be in construction. You know why? You gotta widen the bridge, right? So how much right of way do we have to purchase between Shower Drive and, it would be a massive costly implication. So I'm not saying that, hey, it's not needed. But it was a hard choice we had to make that, hey, we get this project going, get that extra relief, or do I wait and let it sit for another 5-6 years until we can figure out, to phase it out according to the plan. So, it is unfortunate, but, we can always go back and look at it, but I'm not sure how much the support is going to have because of the cost. The cost would be a big thing because one of the major things that we tried to avoid was widening that bridge just before Shower Drive.
Dude, I drove that today. I haven't driven it in a while, and I noticed that, we could have gone wide on that, but it hasn't gone very wide.
I'm sorry?
But the width of the bridge, you're talking about the one for the...
Yeah, well, it's not going to meet any of our engineering requirements as far as grids and stuff. It would have to be widened. It's unfortunate, but just the news that we've got.
Because you have a lot of support for that. There's a lot of public support that's asking for that. There are a lot of people that are asking to leave the
Well,
community, we taxpayers
it's
are
up to
asking
you
for
folks,
that.
if you want to delay the downfall widening from Shower on, then we can undertake this. That's it. But there's something the public's going to talk.
My question's more mundane. Where in this HS14 or HS15 is are the stoplights?
I don't know.
Is there a plan for a stoplight at all on Route 130?
Yeah, isn't that in design now?
Shower Drive.
The stoplight is currently designed as what we call phase 2 of the shoulder lane widening.
But it's been crossed out.
No,
HS15 or 14?
So what was crossed out?
Yeah.
So shower drive improvements?
yeah, HS15 is the shoulder lane conversion phase 2. That's where the traffic signal is going to be constructed.
Okay.
So it's not crossed out. It's not.
Okay, no, because I was looking at HS14 phase 2, that's been crossed out. What was taken off?
Oh, yeah. No, the design.
The
portion was taken out.
HS14 is the widening from the school all the way up to Pahoa. That's the one that Alvin mentioned is going to be done in phases, probably 4 phases.
Okay.
That's the one that the Cal Pahoa advisory group mapped and put the EA together. John was
When did you finish that?
a couple years ago.
2011.
Yeah. So then we have a consultant on board to, we're trying to negotiate with the consultant now to do the design.
So
of that project.
project is still, to answer your question, that project is already in
The
progress.
project has now been segmented, it's been pulled apart.
Well, even when you guys did the EA, it was determined it's going to be done in multi-phases, probably 4 phases, because the total cost was about $160 million.
Right.
And there's no way we can afford that at one time, so it has to be phased. And there was some scheme on how it's supposed to be phased in the EA. I forget what it is, but it's in
But
there.
now it's being further set back.
So that's not phase 2, because I mean, we noticed that it got crossed out. So what don't we
The
have?
design portion.
The design of this thing is, or the project that was
The redesign.
Design.
Yes, yeah, design.
So it was designed and now it's being redesigned.
No, it wasn't designed. You guys came up with a conceptual design.
Yes.
Now we hired a consultant to do the actual design.
Would that be based upon the KPHE concept?
We're going to try to follow the KPAC recommendation.
You don't feel you have any obligation to follow that?
We do. It's in the EA.
Yeah, okay. Well, I mean, go ahead.
I'm sorry, I'm going back to the stoplight, because people are calling me up about the stoplight potential for shower drive. Does that possibly include a crosswalk? Because what I'm hearing is there's these bus stops across the highway and people like darting across.
I haven't seen the design yet, but
Is there a
can
Yeah, you know,
crosswalk?
okay, you know, that's the thing I hate. So
No?
there's no communication. You know, even on all the other islands, and Oahu is the worst. When the county decides to put a bus stop on our highway, they don't tell us.
Okay.
They don't realize that when you put in a bus stop, you also generate pedestrian crossings. And it irks the heck out of me because then I get yelled at, hey, somebody got killed over here. What bus stop? You know, this is what I'm saying, what bus stop? But that's where it was. And you know, I'm concerned because they need to coordinate with us. If they put a bus stop, you know there's going to be pedestrian crossings. But to answer your question, yes, we will consider pedestrian traffic.
Okay. And I will talk to the county about moving the bus stop closer to
Well, they
shower
need
drive,
to coordinate it
because
with
it's
us,
ridiculous with a
not at their
shower.
convenience, but at the convenience of our state road.
Okay.
That's what I need to have happen. Yes.
My inquiry was very, kind of follow up on that, along the same lines. Just, if I understand correctly, first at looking at HS14, basically everything has just been bumped at least a year later, it appears. Right, with the red lettering and the strikeouts are, everything's just been slid to at least 1 year later.
possibly, yeah.
Okay, that's simple interpretation of it, okay. And then on HS15, The next thing to happen then would be late next year, at the beginning of fiscal year 2016. The next thing to be happening would be that phase 2, the shower drive intersection improvements.
Right.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah.
Just a comment going back to the concern about the shoulder for bicycle use. I just want to also point out that also impacts, you know, those slower moving motor scooters like the 50cc and smaller motor scooters. So it will benefit both the pedal bikes and the 50cc scooters. Because once that project's complete, like even motor scooters going to get squeezed out during rush hour. That's like, what is the time that the shoulder will be open?
We don't know yet, but
24/7.
3 to 6, something around there.
3 to 6? It'll be like high, like
Yeah,
motor
during
vehicle.
the peak hour time.
And I guess maybe not, instead of bike lanes, maybe shared roadway, like paved shoulder would be a better way to think about it because it's real rural, you know.
Well, you know, like I said, we'll consider making those accommodations, but it's got to be within the realm of, you know, the cost benefit.
Yeah, but it's very cheap to add, like, say, 3 feet of shoulder when you compare it to the overall.
Not when the right-of-way is right up to the right-of-way line.
Oh, that's maxed out already?
Yeah.
Oh,
That's why we cannot make it wider. I wish we could make it wider.
So when this project is complete, you will have paved from right-of-way edge to right-of-way edge, is that correct? Oh, I didn't know that. Okay.
Well, there's utility lines through there too, and they're high voltage lines, so in order to move those guys, you gotta go through PUC meetings and all that.
So the utility line is in the easement, it's not inside the state right-of-way right now?
Well, it is in the state right away.
Oh, so you do have
an
one
easement,
road.
yeah.
But you just moved those.
We moved the Mokaiwa, not the Malta. He's talking about the Malta shoulder lane.
And then another comment too, you mentioned that a very high priority for Big Island is the bridge work, but you're primarily talking about the older bridges on Homofield Coast, yeah? But since bridge is a high priority, could you piggyback that one bridge on Highway 130 to a project like that?
No, they don't. You know, the federal has to approve each project, you know, including from the preliminary stages. If you try to piggyback that, they will make it non-participating.
How come?
Well, it has to be identified on your system, right? On your bridge priority or bridge replacement priority.
Oh, I see. So look at the
They just, yeah, they, you know, they say, oh, this, yeah, you know how that goes.
Yeah. So that bridge has no deficiencies right now?
Oh, no, they're doing fine right now. Some of the ones that I'm seeing is, what you said, 40 miles an hour wind and the bridge could come down.
That was the Omaha Bridge, because the steel were badly deteriorated, so we had to downgrade the capacitor bridge to 25 tons load limit. And if there was a wind that exceeded 50 miles an hour, we'd have to shut down that bridge.
Oh, so that's one that's being bypassed?
The one that's being done
Yeah.
on Highway 19.
Yeah, so you know, stuff like that, I tell you what, give me chicken skin, you know. If that thing ever goes down, how are you gonna get from one side to the other side?
Yeah.
Excel Road.
Pardon?
Excel Road.
You're gonna have to. You're not gonna have a choice. But you know, those are some of the challenges that we have. Yes.
Doesn't the original conceptual designs of Highway 130 show it as a 2-lane, as a 4-lane divided highway?
Yes, I believe that was one of the discussions. I wasn't involved in the discussion of the EA.
Yeah, KPAG recommendation was a 4-lane with bike lanes on each side.
Divided highway.
Yeah, it's divided highway.
So what are we doing down here with this solar thing?
Well, this project was, I guess, came down prior to us having this 4-lane widening, because we previously had that morning rush hour lane. So we just converted it to full-time travel lane.
So what are you going to do? Tear out the center of the road to put to the left to make it a divided highway now?
The 4-lane widening will have some kind of a
So you're
median.
going to tear it back up again? Well, how economical?
So it looks similar to the stretch by Kell High School, but with a smaller unpaid median.
Something like that.
Similar, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'd like to know something about this roundabout that's going in here.
I'm sorry?
that I keep hearing about, and everybody's saying stuff. The roundabout?
Yes.
Can you explain some of that to me?
Where is that?
At Old Government Road. That is
Is
the
it right
second.
down here?
Yeah, where Malama Market.
Yeah,
right? Yeah, we're intending to, you know, there was a lot of support for roundabouts. You know, by the way, I'm a former traffic engineer, and I was the head of traffic at that time. You know, and I believe that you should not do something because it's popular. You should do something because you need it. Now, nobody that favored a roundabout will ever explain to me what is the purpose of a roundabout.
That's not true. It's been explained.
What is the purpose of a roundabout?
Provide better traffic congestion, increase capacity, and especially increase safety.
You know, I'm going to have to disagree with you because I tell you what, Pahoa, 45, 55 miles per hour, right? 45, 55. And let's assume now, although I don't think it's going to happen, let's assume that everybody follows the speed limit. You're going 55 miles an hour. The operating speed within the roundabout, 20 miles per hour. I need to lower the speed limit by 10 mile per hour increments. I can't just drop it like that. Not from 55 to 20.
Speed limit is 45 starting on the
Right.
outside of the
So I'm going to
station.
have to drop it in 2 increments, right? 2 increments to get to 20. Now, all the guys that live Pahoa, Kalapana, before this roundabout, they can just go right through, right? How many seconds does it take to go right through the intersection? Now, let me tell you this. How many of them are going to slow down to 20 miles per hour, maneuver within the roundabout because you must yield. Your car's within the roundabout, and then get through and then continue on toward you. I tell you what, I won't get tarred and feathered, I know that. But you know what? I felt that that was the best solution for that particular area because that intersection has Malama Market to deal with, the ugly turn from Pahoa coming out, hitting Pahoa Road. You know, he's got all these factors that are existing at the area that possibly a roundabout could help. Again, you must yield to the cars within the roundabout. So all these guys that are going through that take 2 seconds to go through are not going to have to slow down, yield to anybody within the roundabout, and maneuver at 20 miles per hour through and continue on.
Well, one of the problems with that is we've got Sanford's business right next to the police station. We've got Bryson right up by the dump. And if you've ever seen a semi turn around in one of those things, you're going to take out a few cars. You know, and that's one of the biggest concerns we're talking about with the roundabout is one of those, because we do have businesses.
No problem.
Yeah, and it's just going to create a big problem for them.
It's all over the world every day. They just have a little ramp, big truck that rolls right through. And you know what? The fire departments love roundabouts. They can move emergency vehicles through them faster.
So it's designed such that the inside circle have what we call multiple curves, so the truck can.
But if you're in an ambulance and you're lying in a stretcher in the back, be prepared for that bounce when you go with that kid.
Yeah.
Okay, so are we having one or not?
Yeah, it's going to happen. We're going to start construction pretty soon.
Isn't this the first roundabout in the state?
Yes.
Well, for state highways. For state highways.
No. There is one, but it's only a temporary roundabout.
Is it on
It's on the island of Kauai. Why I said, okay, you know what? You can do it. Is that it meets all the criteria of a roundabout. Now, all state roads are normally your higher speed roads, right? It's not like Kinole, Keawe. It's high speed. We talk about Queen K, Hawaii Belt Road, Volcano Road, Keaupahoa Road. You're not slow speed. And don't tell me anybody's going 45 miles per hour, because that's a lot of bull. I know, because I traveled through that area. But if you look at it, the Kauai one was in a 25 mile per hour zone. In a basically a very residential area. So, you know, the speed of the cars were sufficient such that they could maneuver within the roundabout. But you know something, if you're going higher speed, somebody's going to get killed. Somebody's going to get killed.
Is there one on the North Shore on Oahu?
Pardon? No, there's none. That's a rotary. That's a,
Wing circle is
yeah.
Yeah, what I'm really concerned about here is there money set aside in this budget for education, like TV ads and stuff like that? It's going to lay out with dotted lines so people get more exposure than the first time they drive into it and cause an accident.
Yeah, you know, we're going to have to work that out with our public affairs office. Okay. We normally will do that because I had one bad experience in Maui. We opened up the Haleakala bypass, and you know, we didn't do a real good job of informing the public. And you know, there was a lot of accidents that were caused by that. So you know, we do intend to do that because it is, to me, functionally, it's the first roundabout to a state highway.
Yeah, exactly.
Maybe one thing that would help in line with the public information service idea is to have a police presence for a while. You know, when there's a police presence, people just kind of behave better.
Yeah, you know, the only problem is that, you know, I got a feel for the police because this traffic is just a part-time job for them. You know what I mean? They have, of course, all these other...
Do you special duties like outside the normal duties type of thing?
Pardon?
Funding for that? Special duties?
No, that would be recurring costs. You know, that would come out of our state funds. And the feds aren't going to participate.
Right now, they have to spend hours and lots of money there picking bodies up off the highway out there. I come back and count 4 and 5 emergency vehicles and up to 10 emergency personnel for an hour or two at a time.
T-bones and head on collisions.
Because you know what, so how often do you guys see them on the Pahoa Road enforcing?
Is it going to be all single lanes going into the roundabout, or are you going to have double lanes coming into one?
No, double lane roundabouts do not work.
You got that on the camera there?
Yeah, put that on the camera. I got a roundabout country.
Let me tell you what, I am on the national committee called.
Have you gone to Carmel, Indiana?
Can you please hear me out?
Have you gone to Carmel, Indiana?
I know Carl Tuttle, traffic engineer in Indiana.
Good. They work.
No, they don't. And let me tell you why.
Yes,
I took a survey of all the traffic engineers around the nation, because we sit on this one committee called the Subcommittee on Traffic Engineering. And you know what they tell me? You know, double lane roundabouts. Okay, 2 lanes going into the roundabout, right, in one direction. Only 1 lane can exit the outside. So basically, you've cut the capacity of that highway to 1 lane. Because everybody's going to try to get in that 1 lane, the right lane, and they're going to try to get out, unless you're going to go round and round and round.
Unless you're making a left turn.
No, but how many of them are making left? I tell you what, the majority of traffic are going straight, and you're all going to try to get in that right lane. So do you know what's going to happen? You've cut the capacity down to a 1 lane highway. So why widen it to 2 lanes to begin with? That's my whole point.
Okay, well, I just want to anecdotally tell you that the last 3 times that I drove from Arlington here, Fort Kilo, at Shower, at Paradise, at Makubu, people don't understand what a yield is, and I'm on the highway, and people pull off of those roads, and I'm just, this is where it really happened. I'm not picking on anybody's subdivision, okay? Cars, trucks, they pull right out, and I've got slamming on my brakes and on the horn, and it's like, oh, thanks for, you know. So if people cannot understand they to traffic on the highway,
I share the same frustration as you.
there has to be a lot
I spent a lot of my life putting up speed limit signs that nobody is used.
I could see it, I could see it.
Nobody is
Mine.
used. I put
Yeah,
stop
It's
signs,
not true. People break speed limits, but it's simply not true to say nobody adheres to it.
you are right.
Thank
But
you.
I can tell you what, the average speed limit out there
They see
is
me
not
and go out
55.
right in front of me.
Not 55. But let me tell you one thing. I wish for her sake that we were like Oregon.
Say it again.
That we were like Oregon.
I really
I wish
want
we were
to- I
like
cannot hear
Oregon.
you. And what does Oregon do?
You know, Oregon, they got so sick and tired of people dying on the highway. They and the judiciary and the police came to a conclusion. You gotta get people to adhere to the traffic laws. Well, you know what their speeding ticket is? What the fine is? It's not a variable fine where you go by how many miles an hour you thing. It's a flat rate.
$500.
No, it's $1,000.
All right.
And you know what? I know I talked to some of the people at the traffic violations bureau. You know, that's the guys that collect it from. They say, ah, people can afford that. Hey, if you can afford that, no speed. That's what I said. You know what I mean? Because when Oregon did that, the first year that they implemented that, and they have a state highway patrol, so they're enforcing 24/7. Not like this. Their accidents went down 40%. 40%. So if that doesn't show you that it works, nothing more. I saw one where their laws are so ridiculous that you cannot fill up your own gas tank. You came from Oregon, right? You cannot fill your own gas tank. If you do, it's a $500 fine. Over here, you guys would be yelling and screaming. But you know something? They just got tired of it. That's why it worked. That's why he's laughing because he's from Oregon. He knows what I'm talking about. That was in 1999. They changed it, speeding citation. And I do know one of their judges. I talked to her. Her name is Dorothy Baker. She's something like Judge Judy. Hey, she doesn't want to hear about any loopholes. All she wants to know is, did you speed? If you did, guilty. That's the end of story. No more loopholes. So, you know, their system works wonderful.
Do they use radar, and do you know if they have like a leeway of 2 miles or 3 miles over before the ticket?
No, I don't know.
No worries. I'll
4
research it.
miles over, 4 miles over speed limit before you get there.
Pardon me? 4 miles.
But, you know, there's a lot of challenges in transportation. It's not only transportation. A lot of challenges. So you guys,
Well, to get back to the,
you know,
couple of issues here on that we've already.
okay, you know what,
We'll back up.
is there any other questions? If not, I'm gonna,
Elliot.
yeah, sure,
Yeah,
great.
on the issue, well, back in the mid-90s, we filed a civil rights complaint against the State Department of Transportation for its lack of planning in Puna. And that civil rights complaint was accepted in the year 2000. And in findings of that complaint, of the 5 issues that were addressed in the complaint's finding, 2 of them addressed, and I'll read it to you, item issue 2. HDOT and Hawaii County failed to take into consideration economic development and multimodal transportation needs of low-income communities, and specifically those in Puna and Kauru, which you're doing again now by removing the bike lanes on your present project. And item 4 specifically says that basically DOT has failed to identify and apply evaluated criteria in development of the long-range surface transportation plan as in Puna and Kauru. And the other one that dealt, issue 3 was multimodal, also failed to provide transportation alternatives to meet the economic and multimodal needs of the community. So you're doing that again.
Why not?
Yeah, you are. You took out the bike lanes. You decided that the bike
What bike lanes? What
bike
bike
lanes
lanes?
on
What
the
bike lanes?
on the process that you are working on now, the
What
widening
bike
from
lanes
Pahoa
are we taking
down
out?
The bike
What
lanes
bike lanes are
from,
we taking out?
the bike lanes from Pahoa to Shower.
What
That
bike
should
lanes
have
are we
been-
taking out?
The ones you didn't
That's
put
the
in.
PM afternoon lane.
Right.
No, but it's not a
That's
bike
restricted,
lane, so
yeah.
what bike lane is he telling me that?
I
It's a
will
shoulder,
have-
it's a shoulder lane.
I will have them come and explain it to you, Alan.
Fine,
I
that's fine.
will. They will come and help you with this.
Just fine.
Yes.
I've been an expert witness for the state DOT for about 20-something years.
Okay.
Joy knows, she deposed
Yes,
me.
I know.
Yes, we
I remember you.
Yes,
Joy.
I know.
So, I've been to court many times.
Oh,
Doesn't bother me.
I promise.
Yes.
I absolutely promise. And if anybody would like a copy of this document, I have information here which will allow you to acquire your own from the federal government.
Okay. That's your,
Yeah,
your.
we'll help you with this. We will.
Is there any other question? Okay, why don't you go to the last slide? I'm just going to tell you what the next steps are. We're going to finish our informational meetings throughout the state. We've already held those on Kauai. We also have the Island of Hawaii, which we're doing this week. Next week we'll be doing the ones on Maui. Based on this presentation, we will wrap up and make the final validation of the STIP, a statewide STIP for all the islands. We will develop and complete the final report that we will submit to the Federal Highways Administration for their approval. We will submit it to them, and after it's approved, then it can take effect on October 1st, 2014, which is the beginning of fiscal year 15. So that's our next step. As I said, we're in the home stretch for the STIP process, and it's almost there. We're ready to start to develop as soon as we complete all of our public information meetings, and then we'll proceed to submit it to the Federal Highway. Now, I was planning to open it up now, but if you guys want to ask me questions, go ahead, because this is the time that you can ask me. I know you probably asked me everything you have already, so that's fine.
I got a question.
Sure.
How long before you retire?
Depends. It really depends on. My biggest fear, to be honest with you, I don't want to become a couch potato.
Well, that's good. That's good. But, we ought to try. We might all be happier.
I'm sorry?
I said, you should try it. Sooner the better. We'd all be happier. Okay?
Like a curious, small question. I think you found notes in Menlo on a Humboldt website.
Oh, yeah, it's very good.
Railroad tie bridges, or like wooden bridges, like railroad tie material.
On private.
I think
Just straight away.
state jurisdiction that
And people are always turning into the spigots.
But I was just curious, like the problem with that bridge on Highway 130, would it be possible to have a second structure built on the side? Or maybe like motor scooter, bicycle, that type of thing? But I don't know if Federal Highways that's even built.
Yeah, I don't know if they have. Every project has to come up with a cost benefit analysis. The whole thing, federal approval first, stretch up. Who knows, right?
Or like maybe a simple folder, like listen to or folder or something.
No, I'm not talking about on the highway.
Again,
Because it's going to be a squeeze, it's going to be a pinch point.
Because of February
It's
2012,
all the way, I mean, you just don't have room
and I
for.
told you that Clinton Medical Center was going to plan to emergency.
Yeah, no, I think isn't that bridge what's kind of holding up the whole idea of being able to have like a
we have a lot of,
If there was any special
you know, it's not as simple as
It's not simple over.
yeah, you know what, this thing is, it must be about 50 years old, isn't it? State Historic Preservation
Well, why
Division
don't you have something?
has declared that any structure over 50 years old
Right on.
is
To write a comment.
There's one.
So I want to know There's one organization. Don't mean to interrupt, I gotta get going. Nice meeting you. Good, thank you. See you, you're in the Hilo tomorrow, yeah?
Yeah, I'm gonna be with you.
Okay, I'll see you.
One meal on Wednesday, Kona on Thursday.
Okay, I'll see you tomorrow.
Okay.
But that was just a question about food instruction.
Yeah, you know, like right now, a lot of our Pahoa projects are having difficulties because we cannot do construction where only that is on the construction's gonna start September to
So what's the most of that restriction again?
hold that waiting season.
What is the mating season? Is that the gap?
Oh, yeah.
Excuse me. You're gonna be in
You know, there's, things are not as simple as
Oh, can't get enough.
what this is what bothers me. We cannot, we're along the second plan. And they only grow along the highway.
Yeah,
Why?
the aggregate.
Yeah, why? Oh, it was an aggregate? Okay, now that is where the endangered moth. So
But they did miss that naming foraging ground, like where it goes, makes that curve, and because they did their assessment when they weren't around or something, and they built it, they were like getting hit, or like taking on the side of the shoulder.
yeah.
Fence still says.
I'm getting some frustrated because one of my projects, construction has been delayed for 40 years.
Well, I tried that, and it didn't talk back to me.
Because
Everything.
It got the post office.
This is stretch going to the airport, yeah, that
And
part.
I called up and I said,
it's only for construction
get me
for
another
40 years.
address, and I said, does that
You
take
cannot
up
proceed.
So I wanted to hell with this.
We haven't fulfilled the consultation with the.
See if I can dig it up.
Are you in States? So you must have, it's office department of interior. You know, when I consult them, we need to this is running them for the. We're here for the litigation, impacts of the project. The only one in 100 is construction from one office. No, but you know, like,
which is going to then resolve some of the questions that tonight.
much longer than
After listening, I just want to double check that the plan.
And you know what?
That's then going to be.
Yeah, right there, they have some.
Yeah, moving the poles,
Reason why? The last two times I gave up, gave into the public. It was so sad. With the community yelling at me, just like almost getting here.
Is larger than.
So I said, okay.
Amount is allocated by
The Connie girl died.
Then. Asking.
You know something? Nobody that was yelling at me everything for 2 hours.
That bike, the lanes of traffic, the bike.
They were yelling at you to put in the crosswalk or to be out the crosswalk. Then she was killed in the crosswalk. So how could you prevent someone from being killed in the crosswalk?
Well, when the lawsuit came out, none of the supporters
right away.
It's going to be a mess.
including the elected officials, I had to subpoena.
But the lawsuit said that the Department of Transportation negligently designed the
Well,
place
when we
that.
talked to the arbitrator, you know what he told me? That's the way our court system is. He told me, Alvin, I know there's nothing wrong with the road, but you know what? Somebody died, so the state got to pay.
It's not right away.
I told him, you know what? You want to tell the who you advertising that? So you get upset. That's the mindset of the court. Somebody dies, somebody dies. Whether it's right or wrong.
I think a signal at that intersection shower will probably behave similar to the signal right over here at
No. Radio? No. Television? YouTube.
I've always been a supporter of them having
Yes,
a light
sir.
because I've lived on, well, I've lived at the top of 40,000, trying to come into
channel
drive, trying to make a left
or
turn into
sort of
town.
thing?
There's no way. You're, yeah, you're
For
stuck.
community purposes or?
Yeah. People try to do like the one
I go to
person
a
said,
lot
they just
of
fly out of the
council
road.
meetings
And they
and
fly
planning
out
commissions
direction
and
Hilo,
just
making a right turn and
whatever I can get to.
They
Look
can't
for
see
them, put
you.
them on
I said,
YouTube for
no,
people to,
I can see their whole
you know,
car
so they don't
for
have to be everywhere all
miles.
the time.
And I happen to
What
drive
is, how do we
at the
find,
speed limit.
how do they,
With
how do
4
people
car
find it?
lanes minimum.
I will have it up
They think 4 car
probably
lanes is
tomorrow
enough
or the
room.
next day.
Yes,
Pretty quick.
Yeah.
And if you
No,
search
I don't
on
go,
YouTube
I don't go
for,
over 2,000.
Just so you know,
Conservation meeting at Pahoa.
what it's about.
You gotta stretch your gas out. Yeah, but I just wanted to say.
The whole island.
Change what, gas money?
Gas that.
1,400 videos up there.
Wow.
All kinds of stuff. Yeah?
Thanks.
You know what?
That's how you guys get your money, is the gas cap.
The USD, they're shooting themselves in the foot. You realize that? They're shooting themselves
You
in
know,
the
for some
foot.
reason, my voice is at exactly the pitch that I don't hear.
Okay,
So
go.
it's closer.
USD, you know the Fed, Congress.
You're gonna make your
They're shooting themselves in the foot. You know, we try to money, right, federal money. But here's something, it's the Fed that are promoting
The money is there.
electric cars, hybrid cars,
Consulting to do that side.
efficient
bus
cars.
revenues,
Yeah, biking to work,
Money.
riding, walking, so
So
you're
it cuts into the
decreasing
income.
the amount of gas.
Yeah, you don't need it
Right?
approved. Yeah,
So what they're going to is, look,
so that's why.
in Hawaii alone,
This,
all revenues are
yeah,
dropping to $2 million.
It's the same designer.
You know, we cannot sustain that.
Money.
So, we're going to charge people based on their road usage.
Yeah, and that will be independent of gas consumption. In some
Uh,
cases.
Yeah, cannot be gas consumption, road
Identify
usage.
in the EA.
But the burdens that we face trying to, you know,
People
figure out,
how to do it.
charge you based on the vehicle miles traveled is absurd. In Oregon, they tried it.
And that's the one that
What
do
do
all.
they say, you know, every year you go to your safety
Oh,
check,
you
you
check
go
every,
out,
So the odometer's not going around anymore.
yeah, so we can charge. Anyway, they have stuff like that, and how many people get safety check?
And then you would.
You know they're required all of them.
Yeah.
So you're gonna be a tremendous amount of revenue. So this is about, we have a voluntary program right now in Oregon. They put all state, you have an all state policy. You must have a GPS. It registers how many miles you travel. Their hurdles are bigger than ours. They cannot charge the guys for using roads outside of the state.
Yeah.
State. So, they're like us, we don't have that problem. We're out of state. I mean, there's no way to
Take a car with you.
But they also have the problem of out of state people using Oregon roads before we do that.
We don't have that now. So our problem's gonna be a lot easier to
So
solve.
ours is
not-
more
that's
worse because
designed so
if I
that's why.
even mention that we're going to travel
This is
your car,
design.
Invasion of privacy.
ACLU will be up my own leg. I guarantee you.
So then, looking at
So, you
this,
know, Oregon has volunteered, we're a consortium of Western people. Oregon is going to volunteer to try
just were to
to
go exactly as planned.
implement a mandatory vehicle travel system based on GPS. But this is, it's already in the black boxes of your cars, like Cadillac and stuff. It's already in there. It's already in there. But,
Weren't they using that program that, I read about that in one of our magazines, and they said that they're doing that in Portland, in the city of Portland, that they're able to limit to see how much your mileage is driving. So then they're planning on implementing that statewide.
yeah.
Holy
No, that's
crap.
part of our consortium. And we're going to follow their model.
Okay. So
There's
then,
about 18
after
states
that,
that will
yeah.
punish states.
Then, so at what point are the
Because, you know,
different phases then
um,
determined?
For example, you know, I don't bring bicyclists with me. There's no answer to this.
a shower.
road usage, how do you charge
From a
money?
shower to unload.
How do you charge pedestrians? Because right now, today as we speak, the financial burden is on the back of the roads. Whether they be, bicycling, pedestrian, all the costs for their facilities are on the backs of the road. But that's just the way it is.
Well, what about Kona though? Like, I hate going to Kona, and I never go. I've only been recently going to Kona like this last year. And in like 7 or 8 years, not seeing what's going on over there. Every single road has a bike lane. Like, all the new stuff you have on the East Highway, you have, there's a new road that goes to the county office, the West White County office, there, Henry Street. You have them all, you have it all, and it's,
Yeah, they're gonna look at the infrastructure. They don't have.
but what about the state highway, the one that runs out to Kauai High? Well,
I'll tell you why.
we get confused, because again, country, there's a bike lane or then there's a bike route.
There's a bike route.
Right.
None of this is making bike lane, you should bike lane.
I think it's
The
shared.
reason why is that,
Shared.
over the community, wanted a
Yeah,
bike
and that's my
lane.
job to make sure that I get the money for this project.
So you have an idea,
Right.
you have an idea.
Everybody, because you're gonna expense.
Right.
If you have a bike lane, the guys that are taxi,
Thanks for the education.
they gotta ride in the lane. They gotta ride where they want.
Yeah, I think the lane really only used at the intersections, so once you get away from the intersection, it says shoulder use, yeah? Shared roadway,
No, you cannot have disjointed bike lanes, so they're not bike lanes,
Yeah.
bike routes.
Yeah, they have to stop at the lights and everything, but see, you can't really do that here, it's gonna cost us so much money, because the land, everybody's house is right up here, right butting up to the easement, and if you look at Kona on the roadside, it's basically vacant land, there's no houses up there. So the state can actually get the land for cheap, and when you're talking an extra 3 to 6 feet, this is just me talking, shut me up. But but that's, I'm not saying right or wrong, I'm just saying the way the way it is you've got houses right on the road here. And so they get an extra 3 feet, and then you're gonna have to, somebody's gonna say, no, I don't want it. I don't want you taking my 3 feet.
But did you know that the state stipulates that though? And that's for shared streets. Are you familiar with this?
It has
shared streets, and so shared streets, that's just trying to give equal parity, because again, I'm a taxpayer too.
Yeah.
I drive
I
a
bought
lot.
my
I
piece
drove
of
out.
property. I bought my piece of property, and this is what I paid for, and now you want to take some away? I mean,
But it
it's
was
in-
never yours.
It was never yours.
Yeah, well, I paid for this little strip.
No,
Yeah.
we're trying to finish up the,
I mean, I try to be reasonable here.
and we're trying
Did you do
to
that tomorrow night too?
purchase
Okay.
the property. It's taking an arm and a leg, because one of the families that I knew when I was young, when I was growing up here, I knew the family. But anyway, they were just talking to me. They give us a bad, we cannot complete the deal.
I'm for you, but there's gonna be somebody that just says, no, he's got a little more money, they can hang on with a lawyer or something, and so it's gonna take a while. Maybe they'll die in
Can't
this.
put the whole easement in.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So the land is cheap until you try to buy it.
Yeah. But see, that's the only thing I see the problem with a lot of this down here. But the thing I want to know about is our substandard roads. How are we going to be able to tell people, we're going to get you some roads here, and without any money, and people are going, yeah, really like, we're getting more retirees than we are younger people, and as time goes on, they're going to want ambulance. I mean, 5 years down the road, there's going to be an ambulance call.
Yeah, in fact, tonight, I didn't expect to come out because there's a hearing about having a hospital and somebody will get on the
Yeah, it's right over by where where the air landing was.
Oh, okay.
It's right over in that area.
Oh.
I think it might be right next to
Some legislators, I saw them in the plane. And of course, they know me, so I gotta hide. Just the last thing I need to have them talk to me in the election here.
Okay, I got one last one for you. Okay. So yeah, one last one. So bike licenses that you're required as bicyclists, we purchased. It's actually only 15, and it's one time.
Yeah.
One time. Okay, so.
We're thinking about $100 a year.
So our state, or our island, excuse me, we're licensing over 6,000 licensed bicycles. That's new bicycles purchased every year. You know how many cars our island is licensing new every year? Less than 5,000 annually. We're actually having more cyclists, and it's not just want to do. It's our culture. It is a culture that we have here on this island. And I'm not coming from all the white guys, because the Oregon joke is funny, because I love to laugh at the Oregon guys, because I haven't lived there in like 30 years. I've lived here on this side of the island since growing up, and I just laugh at the funny things that they do, because it's funnier than crap, yeah. But it is. It's funny. But it's just ridiculous funny.
Yeah, you know, and the good fun part about it too is that creates a bigger imbalance, because you have less cars now, right? More bicycles. But the less cars means less we're stuck.
But the feds, that's where the money's coming from. And the Fed, you know, it's a much higher percent of federal funds, and they are required. They bicycles. That is one of the transportation things that the money has to be used for. And that's one of the disparities that happen here.
Well, the money has to be used for it, but the bicycles are paying $115.
Well, that is a county thing, and I'm not.
What?
It doesn't go to the state.
And that goes to the county.
Oh, the
That's
15
county.
even goes to
Yeah.
the county.
And I'm not saying that that's a lot. I actually don't agree with it. And I own a bicycle store in Hilo, and I have for the last 20 years. I've been doing bicycles here in Hilo for 28 now. And I think that the $15 licensing fee is actually kind of like, why are we even doing that? We're taking a, you know, it's the cost more money. The cost more money to process a 15, exactly. So, I mean, is there, and that's so, like, that's what we can bring, because like, I'm going to meet with our mayor tomorrow, a Malik meeting over in Coleman. It's, we're going to be discussing, this is going to be one of the discussion points on that. You notice that he, I don't know if you know or not, but he recently qualified for Ironman. He's going to be competing. He's going to be one of those crazy triathletes. Yeah. Yeah. Have you seen him lately? Like, I know him when
Joe Biden.
Well, I know.
Well, we saw him at the beach.
I know Billy Kenoy from when he was in high school, okay? And so in seeing him, okay, well, that's good. So then you know, if you've known him since he was a baby, then you know how he has changed throughout these years. But now he's seen how his community, he's bringing his community together. And the way he's doing it is he's getting people active together. And one of his things, that's why we just had the Hilo Triathlon over here. And that was actually that went out really good. We had a lot of good people that appreciate it. But basically the thing is that he also sees that we need to have our kind of it together over here on our side. And we are, you know, petitioning to him. Maybe we might even see him at the meeting tomorrow night.
No, you know, right after lunch. I had a video conference with all the county directors. Warren was one of them. And they're got their attention with this alternate revenue generation. So they'd like to keep us, have us in the process of development. We know the same thing, that this gas tax is not going to be. Because when the president makes this, gas efficiency requirement, right now we're subsidized by the federal general fund. But right now we're stuck in Congress. Other solutions. But you know, from August 1st, if they don't pass that bill, I won't be able to pay my bills. So right now I've got 32 million to pay out to but I'm holding off to the last year by August 1st. But I'm going to need cash card.
So we're not going to be able to tell our constituents out in this area there's hope. I mean, for these substandard roads that we have been stuck with, and then we've been paying the taxes, but we're not getting any money.
I know when you mean substandard roads, is it the subdivision roads?
Yeah, subdivision roads.
Yeah, you know, that's the problem, you see. Before, they had this old style planning process, right? Developers come in there, build them. They don't even build them, they'll just put gravel, right? And they turn it over to the association, which is what they did to me.
Yes.
Now, the planning process, hey, developer, you build the roads, bring it up to standard, and then you turn it over to the county.
Right.
But that was done, folks want it, it's old, so that's why it's roads and railroads, and nobody's doing anything about it. I cannot spend federal funds on anything that is not owned by the government. And those roads are all under the motion of this.
And you said it has to have a little minimum capacity, yeah, it has to be a high volume.
Yeah, it cannot be a subdivision roads and stuff, but by the same token, the killer will be the ownership of the road. You cannot pay,
County owned.
improve, no, privately owned roads.
But we've got.
But what about-
It has to be state, right, or it cannot even
Can
be
be county.
Okay.
Yeah, just government. So, but what about the emergency
Yeah, that's
exit
the one
routes
that's-
out of some of these subdivisions?
Down the subdivision, so the best
Some of the
road.
subdivisions only have one road in and one road out. And if there's, volcanic activity or a flood or a huge storm and a lot of.
That's why each island, the emergency preparedness, if you will, the plan, is always in the hands of the county. The county is responsible for it. When there's a emergency, like, there's a emergency, the state takes orders from the county, the city. And we work on the items. But, I can understand, especially this area, volcano change is just bad.
Well, they're trying to bring it down 130 in from Ainaloa or Orchid Land, and it's not really the smartest thing.
Right, because why would you want to go to 130? Because that's where the lava's going to cross. What we really need to do is get up to Volcano Highway.
Volcano Highway, go across
Or
Volcano.
Stainback should go all the way through.
Well, they have that area where you can push through that, going through Hawaiian Acres, like Ainaloa and.
Yeah, but that's only that's one subdivision, because if it's up there.
That puts everybody on that one through.
I think that idea is if I-130 got wiped out for some reason, but that line, it's kind of weird because that emergency road would get wiped out first.
And not everybody can get to that road.
No, it's open, it's fully 24/7 accessible now.
No, he's talking, but there's backside of Hawaiian Acres, Fern Acres, Eden Rock, there's a break in there. The road does connect, but it's not right there anymore. There's another up to in Glenwood area, in the forest area. They're all backside. They're all kind of connected. What we wanted to see in a civil defense plan is getting those connected, so no matter where you were stuck, you could go up and get out to the highway. Because if you've ever watered things, when it hits the ground, it goes down. Well, that thing can go along so far, but it'll come down. And where it crosses, everybody's stuck. But at least if you have them all connected, and you can get, even though there's some bad road, you can have them connected and get out.
Yeah.
But then the next problem, speed.
And I tell people around the state, we're the only state without a state highway patrol.
Yeah.
Only state, all 49 other states have a highway patrol. The purpose of the highway patrol is to enforce the highway laws.
Even Rhode Island has?
Yeah, they have a highway patrol. But they're all
There's two guys. No, I'm joking.
They're all dedicated 24/7 enforcing the speed. Hawaii is unfortunate, we do it as a part-time. I don't blame the police, but hey, they don't have the time.
Yeah, because I noticed in
It's
some
not a
districts,
priority.
like
It's gotta
Pahoa.
be accidents and deaths.
And like I think the Hamakua, they kind of have, they don't have that, like that, what do you call it?
That's why
Violence,
a lot of the guys in the Marine,
enforcement on Highway
a lot of the engineers in the Marine, they call them Hawaii driving home. Why all of this?
Well, the problem I see is a lot of people come over here and they're bored, or the younger kids are bored, they soup up their car, they're in a subdivision, and the roads are kind of okay, and you're just...
How many commercials do you see on TV with cars in a bird?
Oh, yeah.
Hey, what does that promote? Come on. So I'm telling them that, hey, that's all leading to encouraging that kind of behavior. And plus, they don't feel as responsible. And we're getting watered down with all these other civil rights stuff like that. They go, you know what, my biggest fear, and I don't agree with it, DOT has agreed, right, to make our driver license exam in 2 languages. No, I told them, hey, my signs are only in English, and
What good is it?
But they moved more to the legend to the MBTCE 2009, I guess, or like the last couple editions. They were trying to.
Well, not by different languages.
No, but they're trying to reduce the amount of legend, like the
So
wording is just
get
more
more of the
symbols.
symbols.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Like,
but
like
you
the
know-
line of highway that's showing the symbol.
Like, speed limit sign, there's no symbol for that.
Yeah.
You know, and usually by the shape of the sign, you know what type of sign.
Yeah,
Right?
regulatory.
Like not the specific message, yield signs and stuff, all of the same stuff,
Yeah.
triangle shape, but, if they can take the license exam, pass it, but not understand, and be able to read any English,
It doesn't make
a
any sense.
disaster is about ready to happen.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
But anyway,
I've been to Japan before, I can't read anything.
yeah, but hey, thank you very much.
No, thank you, it was informative.
The interest, trust me.
Did you see it from?
I had even someone, what, encouraged you to retire?
No, I'm curious though. Did you study the traffic circle in California?
I was 41.
Oh, yeah.
You know that one?
No,
Okay. It's really